Okay, so hi everyone. Good morning. This is Hugo Campos. I'm calling in from Peru, and I'm really excited just to share with you the story about the Top 5 project. So the Top 5 project is a very exciting project where HZPC, SIP, and other partners, with the funding from the Syngenta Foundation for Sustainable Agriculture, were developing varieties for the tropics, potato varieties for the tropics. This presentation was pulled together by Richard Sanders from HCPC and myself, and I'm just glad to share our story with you. So this is the outline. What the Top 5 project is all about. Then we will discuss a little bit about why it is that HCPC and SIP are joining forces. Then we will share with you the current status. I mean, what it is that we have been doing over the last several years, and finally, the way forward. So let's start with the why. Why top 5? Well, on a global basis, we need to be very proud about the crop that we work with. Because potato is the third main global crop in terms of human consumption after maize and wheat. So potatoes, they are really, really important for the whole world. But also, in case that you were unaware of, potato consumption, it is bigger in developing than in developed countries. And actually that gap is growing year by year. In other words, the most relevant consumption of potato globally is not happening in developed countries. It is actually happening in developing countries, and actually for over 10 years so far. And finally, we strongly believe that we can sustain a business and we can do good while doing well in tropical markets. We believe that this is feasible, and we're doing that already. So these are the main 3 tenets on which the Top 5 collaboration was put together. Now, we have all heard a lot of information about the global population, but I believe that it's still quite relevant just to share with you some more detailed insights. First of all, there is a massive population growth happening in the tropics. And actually, in case you were unaware of, by the year 2050, which literally is just around the corner, the third country in population terms, it won't be United States anymore. It will actually be Nigeria. But at the same time, in most developing countries around the tropics, urbanization is growing much faster than in the rural areas, because there is a huge amount of people, we're talking about millions of people every year, moving over from the rural and from the agricultural setups into growing cities. And then food, food has a lot of meaning. It goes well beyond just providing calories, okay? It's about providing security. It's about providing diversity. It's about providing some level of insurance against climate change. Climate change is happening all over the world already, whether we like it or not, and we need to act on it. Also, food, it needs to be affordable by people. So they need to be able to produce potatoes with low input and with much less resources than those available to a farmer either in the Netherlands or in any European countries. And finally, in a very short period of time. And actually, potato, it represents a huge business opportunity in the tropics, because it is what is called an in-between crop. What do we mean by this? That potato, if it is able to grow very quickly, it can provide an additional crop within the main cereals, namely rice and wheat, and therefore an additional source of income and of food security for smallholders and their families. So potato plays a very important income generation role for tropics in developing countries. Part of the challenge, though, is that we need to adapt the current potato varieties, which is much happier growing in cooler seasons into the challenges that we face in the tropic. And let me just share with you some insight about that. So, but before that, I think that this is a visual that in a very explicit way, it shows how relevant for the whole world is the population of growth. So listen, on this picture, we're displaying the world population in the year 1800. So it was just about 1 billion, okay? Then this is what happened in the 1 century later, where the population growth, it was 1.7 billion. But now when the change is happening, so have a look at this. In the year 2000, 6.1 billion, and have a look at what's happening already in the tropics, mostly in Africa and in Asia, a huge concentration of people. And in relative terms, the population of Europe and even of America, it started to shrink. Well, look what will happen in the year 2100. 11 billion people with a massive growth expected in Africa. Please compare Africa on this slide what is going to happen in the year 2500. A massive growth of population, and the same is happening in Asia. And finally, please have a look at what's happening in Europa and in America, where in relative terms, the amount of people, it will keep on shrinking. So it is a huge opportunity. Now, what about the top 5 projects? Well, the goal is very clear. We want to increase potato productivity and food security, but also family income and well-being. At the end of the day, we want to improve the quality of life of small farmers in Southeast Asia as a first phase. This is a collaboration between HZPC, which is, in my view, the leader potato breeding company in the whole world, and the International Potato Center, where I'm based at. And the funding is coming from the Syngenta Foundation for Sustainable Agriculture, for which we're very grateful. But at the end of the day, this is a shared organizational goal, both for HZPC, for SIP, and also for the Syngenta Foundation for Sustainable Agriculture, which is about increasing, it's about enhancing the breeding impact by combining the strength from private and public organizations. Again, this is about the power of partnership. What it is that HZPC is providing? Quite a lot. For instance, traits such as nematode resistance, tuber appearance, and equally relevant, high processing quality and yield. Okay, whereas SIP, essentially, we're contributing late blight tolerance, earliness, a stable yield, and tropical adaptation. And as a consequence of that, when we pull together such expertises, we are able to develop short cycle varieties. Now we're talking about really, really short cycle variety potatoes. They need to be harvested in less than 90 days. Okay, they need to be high yielding. They must have late blight tolerance. You will see that by yourself in just a couple of minutes. And also they must be well adapted to tropical conditions. Okay. Now, this is the agricultural reality that many of you are used to. Okay, and this is wonderful. Okay, however, not in every single part of the world the same technology is available. And actually, in many countries where SIP operates, this is the reality, okay, where a lot of the field activity, they are still done by hand, by a lot of people, okay? And in many cases, that's done by women. Actually, in case you were unaware of, in developing countries, mostly in Africa and in Asia, the main share of the workload in the field, it is carried out by women, not by men. So culturally and agriculture, it is an entirely different world. And that we need to be able to build a bridge between these two realities. And this is what the TAP 5 project is doing. It is actually making a bridge between these two realities. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide. It is simply a graph summarizing weather conditions for, on the left under European trial locations in Europe, and on the right, and the tropical ones. And you can see that from a weather and also from an agricultural perspective, the conditions, they're very, very different from each other. Okay, so it is a bit of a breeding challenge just being able to pull together those conditions in order to develop high yielding varieties well adapted to the tropics. Now, we're using state-of-the-art potato breeding approaches. So we're using the most advanced technology available at the moment. So in other words, the same breeding technologies that they are being deployed to develop better and better varieties adapted to European conditions, they are being put to good use to develop varieties for the tropics through the Top 5 projects. Okay, and so on one side, we're running a very short breeding cycle, which is only taking about 5 years from the moment we make a cross until the first round of the registration trials get started. Also, when needed, we're using molecular markers. Okay, so just phenotypic assessment is not enough anymore. So we're using the wonderful technology for the molecular marker that HZPC has developed for other countries. And also, we're really running what is called a shuttle breeding programs, namely sharing breeding operations across the whole year from Peru, the Netherlands, and Vietnam, which on one side, it creates some significant logistic issues, but at the same time, is the only way to move forward as fast as we can and to enable a very short breeding program and to make those new varieties available in the tropics as fast as we can. So this is a picture about Dalat. Dalat, it is the location in Vietnam where our breeding program it is headquartered. Okay, so it is a very high and productive environment. Its altitude is a bit higher than in the rest of Vietnam. However, for selection purposes, we believe that it is an appropriate location. Okay, and there, this is how our breeding experience looks like in reality on the ground. And actually, right there, that's which are making selections in Vietnam. Okay. Also here, probably some of those faces, they're very familiar for you as well. So here we have Robert Graveland from the HZPC team as well. And here, this is how it is done by hand. And again, that's a bit Vietnamese later, which is part of our team doing that field activity. Now, we have mentioned already that late blight, it is a must trait for the tropics. So unless you have a good enough level of resistance to late blight, you are out of the business. So for instance, what we have here, it is a breeding line developed, which is tolerant to late blight. And what we had in the past here, it was a research plot with a commercial check which was susceptible to late blight. You see, it is gone. It is fully destroyed already. So, as in this picture, it shows you why tolerance to late blight it is a must if you want to enable a business in tropical environments. Now, this is a nice summary. It was pulled together by Witcher, showing some of the progress achieved so far. So you can see that in red color, we're showing data from the highlands in Vietnam and in lowlands, I mean, in blue, in lowlands from also Vietnam. Here you can see that on the highlands, there are many breeding lines, actually 20, which are overperforming already commercial checks and by large margin, you see? And we have achieved the same under lowland condition as well. So this is really, really encouraging. Please bear in mind that we're only running this breeding program for 4G so far, and the genetic progress, it is already self-evident. So we're very proud about this. even though we're aware that there is plenty to be done ahead. And here we have a very happy Vietnamese lady sharing with you some very wonderful potatoes coming out of our collaboration. So you can see the joy in her life because a better potato, it means that a better and more food security and well-being for Vietnamese farmers. Okay, and just to show you again very quickly how the most advanced, exciting breeding lines looks like. So this is one, and we're not only interested in getting a great phenotype on the field, processing quality is becoming more and more relevant in tropical markets. This is just a second one, okay, and that's another one. Okay. So we're very proud about what we have achieved so far in only 4 years. Now, again, another picture about how we do things in Vietnam, in this particular case in Dalat. That gentleman in the picture, he's Neeraj Sharma. He's part of the SIP team, and he's based in Vietnam, and he's running the day-to-day operations in Vietnam. So this is how the breeding experiments being harvested looks like, and just a close-up on an elite breeding line already developed. Okay, just another one. Now, what about the future, the way forward? We need to further improve processing quality and bacterial wilt tolerance. So processing quality, it is a must. Also, we will register the first varieties in Vietnam. We want to reach the market first in Vietnam by the year 2023, which is just around the corner, and later on in other Asian countries such as Indonesia. Now, we have a lot of knowledge for a lot of people. This has been the work of many, many people. Okay, so first of all, Mike Robinson and Hervé Thieblemont for the Syngenta Foundation for Sustainable Agriculture. Then Robert Graveland, Brian, Jan Hendrik, and the R&D team from HZPC. Several colleagues like Mrs. Nang, Trang, and Dr. Chin from our Vietnamese team. And finally, from the SIP team, Neeraj Sharma, Ian Barker, and Walter Amoros. Thank you very much so far. Hel her bedam. As you can see, I don't speak a single word of Dutch, but I hope that you got the picture. Thank you very much. We're more than happy to take any questions that you may have. So, Janine, back to you.
You can ask any questions via the chat box. You can see chat, and you can ask any questions there. From Jordan, what market potential do you expect in terms of seeds in Vietnam? Hugo.
Is that question about the size of the market? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay, so in Vietnam, the size of the actual market from a seed perspective is relatively small, okay? However, we're using Vietnam as a breeding hub. And as I mentioned already, even though the first varieties, they will register and commercialize in Vietnam, but since we're aware that the local market is relatively small, we want to move very quickly into more exciting markets, and with Indonesia being one example.
Any other questions? Are the seeds varieties legally protected?
Yes, by all means. As we mentioned already, we strongly believe that we can do good. I mean, sustaining a business while doing well. So not only Vietnam, in every single tropical market that we want to cover, the varieties, they will fully and legally protected. That's the only way to enable a business over the years. So yes, absolutely. So this is not about doing charity. This is about sustaining a business while improving the quality of life and the well-being of farmers. But to do that, yes, we must legally protect every single variety that is going to be released.
Right. Any other questions? You can write them down in the chat for everybody. Next question. How is it possible to breed that fast?
Okay, so, well, that's a good question. Essentially, as mentioned already, we're really running operations around the year, okay? So we are not, for instance, constrained to the crossing period in Vietnam. We're doing crosses in Peru. We're running molecular markers and some quality tests in the Netherlands with the HZPC team, and we're doing several rounds of field trials in Vietnam on a calendar basis. So even though there are many issues doing breeding in a tropical country, the good news is that you can pack several breeding seasons into a calendar year. And as a consequence of that, it is that we're able to run a very short cycle breeding program. Which are, please feel free to jump in as you see fit. Thanks.
Yeah, I only can agree on that, especially the reason of being able to run 2 cycles of selection a year. That is a real difference to the Netherlands, where we in general have 1 cycle a year for the breeding material.